Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, Hans lined up what needed to happen for Serbia to stay in this game. They had to play A-plus basketball, and Team USA had to come out and struggle a little bit. Steph Curry was hot early on, but Serbia is playing A++ basketball right now. They've only missed 2 shots on the night, 6 of 8 from 3. And right now, Serbia leads Team USA 25-18 with 3:30 left in the first quarter.
Steph's over there cooking. And then Drew Holiday's like, well, let me cook.
Yeah. And Booker's like, I want to crank a contested 3.
I'm sorry, did you say cook or clank?
Yeah.
Let me clank. Not good on the perimeter for Booker or Holiday out of the gates.
Anthony Davis stepped in the line for a couple free throws, try to cut this to a 5-point game. But we'll keep you updated on that score.
It's a fun matchup, fun game.
Yeah.
I'm kind of drawn into this. We'll see if Nikola Jokic, if he can, because he's such a cutthroat dude.
Yeah.
He loves heavy competition, and he loves to be pushed, and then he pushes harder. And he knows this is it. This is the elimination. Like the first game, that was just pool play. All I had to do is get out of my pool. This one, you're done, you go home.
Well, and Serbia's been doing the damage here without Jokic. Jokic, I think, has got 4 points, but everything else has
on
been
the perimeter?
From the perimeter, yeah. All right, joining us now, he's the Ute insider for KSLSports.com and, of course, here on The Zone, and overall good dude. It's been fun having you hanging around the office, Steve. It's been good chatting with you. How's the transition? Still going well? Maddie's not cracking the whip too much on you?
Man, I tell you, she's been working that whip pretty good. But no, it's been great, man. Like it's actually fun being in there, being in the office. Getting to see you guys every day, chat with you every day. It's been a lot of fun and definitely finding a good new workflow at KSL Sports. It's different, but it's I'm excited about it.
Well, you're killing it, and your material at KSLSports.com has been spectacular. It's been on point, right where it needs to be. I love it because, I'm listening to the interviews, and there's my boy Steve Bartle throwing questions and then asking another question and then a follow-up and really laying down the hammer. I mean, this is where you've made your money over the years, Steve, is getting to the bottom of things.
Yeah, it's where I've learned from some great people, some mentors and people that have, also kind of made their way. And fortunately, over the last couple of years, like I've had to do a lot on my own. And this year it's no different. Just, with the KSL Sports logo, it's no different for me. My mindset doesn't change and with fall camp and the limited access that we do get, we've got to dig, and we've got to, try and find every little morsel that we can when we're able to talk to these coaches and players. And fortunately, there's other people that we can talk to, off the record, get an idea of what's going on so that we can ask good questions and meaningful questions and get good information. And so that's been the thing for me, and, excited to just bring, those insights to KSL Sports.
What position battle has been most intriguing to you in the first couple of weeks of camp here?
Yeah, with all that Utah returns, right? We talk so much about everything that they're bringing back, but they've added a few pieces. At a number of positions that are going to be important. There's still a handful of position battles that are going to be important for Utah to figure out, and I think that conversation starts at the quarterback spot. Utah needs to find that backup and have a good idea of who can be the guy that can fill in for Cam if Utah needs that, right? Because we learned last year just how important that quarterback position is, for Utah and just in general. And so I think when you look at that quarterback spot, that backup spot specifically, you've got Rose, you've got Wilson, and you got Heward. And I think, Whittingham mentioned on Monday that they have started to see a little separation. And to me, that was interesting, just giving the fact that they've only been in camp for a week and, understanding where Heward is coming from and the fact that this is brand new to him and he's learning the offense. I think that leads me to believe that we're seeing the guys that have been in the program, a little bit longer. Wilson, joining the program back in January. Brandon Rose having 3 years in the program now. I think that kind of gives them the edge if we're seeing separation that early. So I look at those two, creating a little separation. And the thing for Heward is, this is not the backup job. Winning the backup job out of fall camp isn't everything. Like he came here because he'll have an opportunity to compete for the starting job, next year, and when Cam moves on and that sort of thing. And so that, is important to keep in mind here. So, this battle is going to rage on through the next little bit. But Whittingham did state that they want to have a pretty good idea of who the backup is going to be, by next week. I think they were scrimmaging this morning, and they probably are still up there at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and that was going to be an important event for their evaluation of that quarterback spot. And hopefully we'll get a good idea of how those guys performed, up there today.
Who's going to be the rushing leader at the end of the season?
Man, I have talked about him a lot this offseason, and I have been encouraged by what we've heard so far from Coach Whittingham and Quinton Ganther. I think it's going to end up being Mike Mitchell. I think I've just heard a lot of great things about him and his ability, his talent level, what he's able to do on the field, in that run game. He is, an all-around back where he can run inside, he can run outside, he can run, run plays where you got to have a little pace, a little more feel, allow things to develop. He can also, hit those inside zones and trap plays where you got to hit him and make quick decisions. So, he's a versatile back where he's got everything at his disposal in the run game. For him, it's going to be about how does he handle the rest of the playbook, right? That's what makes Mekhi Bernard RB1 and the most trusted guy in that room. He has the time in the program, in the offense. He knows it like the back of his hand. And so for Mitchell, that's going to be the key for him. And he doesn't have to know everything by the end of fall camp, but that's going to be the key for him over the course of the season. If he is going to end up being the leading rusher and RB1 is getting everything down. So I like Mike Mitchell, but that's a loaded room, and Utah's got good options throughout that room.
Well, I got a chance to meet Mike Mitchell, and for those of you that don't know him, he's a freshman. He's actually out of Orange Park, Florida. And when I shook his hand, I wasn't looking eye to eye. I'm a true 6'4". I'm almost 6'5", 6'4 3/4. So I'm a taller guy. But I was shocked that, I don't know what they list him at, if they list him at 6'1" or 6 foot, but he's a true 6 foot or a true 6'1". Like he's a good sized dude, and his hand is the size of a football. And he's got those Zach Moss-like shoulders. He is a good-looking kid, and I didn't even think about it. Because he's so young and because you've got these aged kids in front of him that have years of reps, I didn't even think about Mike Mitchell.
Yeah, this is kind of the thing, right, is when you have this sort of, not necessarily an open competition, but it is, right? It is. They are looking for a guy that can be a bit of that workhorse and a guy that can take control of things, a guy that they can just hand the ball off to, multiple times during a possession and that sort of thing. And I think Mike Mitchell, he is absolutely capable of that. He joined the program at about 205 pounds. He was at 211 for spring ball this past spring. He worked his way up to about 217 pounds, this summer. So he's put on the size, as you talked about. And, what I love most about Mike is just his personality and his mentality. He's come in and, he's a confident kid. He's able to joke around and that sort of thing and crack jokes about himself. But man, he loves playing the running back position. He talks about always wanting to be the hammer, always wanting to be more physical, winning, and just being that tough dude. The things that you would like to hear from a physical running back, you hear from Mike Mitchell, and that, I think, is so important. Having a guy that has that sort of mentality is super, super important.
Steve Bartle joining us. He is our Ute insider at KSLSports.com as the Utes in the middle of fall camp, getting set for the start of the season, which is not that far away. When you look at overall from a defensive standpoint, there's a lot of players, especially at D-tackle, D-end, that are going to be running 2s and 3s with Utah that'd be starting at a lot of Power 5s programs across the country. How do they balance that depth and make sure, because there's a lot of hungry mouths on that defense, especially on the defensive line. How do you balance all of that? Because right now Utah seemingly has an embarrassment of riches right now.
Yeah, that's a credit to the coaches and the coaching staff, the entire coaching staff, and their ability to identify recruits that not only have the frame, the talent, the ability, but they have the mindset, the team first mindset. That's so important when you're talking about playing defense at Utah, is buying into that team first mentality, and understanding that all you've got to do is do your job, do your role, and trust the guy next to you to do his. So, first and foremost, they do a good job of getting the guys on that side of the ball to buy into that mentality, that team first mentality. So that's step number one, is you got to have that buy-in, you got to have that sort of culture. And then from there, right, it's competition. These guys coming into the program, they know that Utah's had a great track record on the defense side of the ball for years. So they're coming in knowing that this is going to be pretty competitive, that they're going to have to compete to see the field. And that's another big part of this, is just the track record that Utah's had. It gets a little bit more of that leeway, that buy-in from those guys. And then finally, right, it gives Morgan Scalley options and flexibility in terms of the personnel and things that he can do on the defense side of the ball. I remember last year, Utah made similar, additions to the defense side of the ball. When you looked at that defensive unit last year, they just had good depth at a number of positions. I think that was an important lesson that they learned going up against at Ohio State, where they had so many guys out for that game, but still it just they plugged in the next 4-star kid and blue chip kid and kept that thing running. I think for Utah, what they learned was you need more, you need options, you need guys that can do that can contribute, maybe not in all ways, right, but in certain ways, to add another dynamic, another wrinkle to that defensive side of the ball. You're going to have your guys, your pillars that you build that defensive unit around, Lander Barton, Karenni Reed, and at each position group, you're going to have that sort of guy, that sort of presence that you're just counting on to do, everything for you. But then you have these other guys that can come in and rotate in, and that's going to allow them to keep bodies fresher throughout the season. And that was the point that Morgan Scalley wanted to make, that he made last year, was, having this amount of depth. It's important because you get, the competition, you raise the level of play, but you're able to rotate guys in there and keep them fresh, so that way you can stay healthier throughout the year. And I think that's going to be key for Morgan again this year, is getting guys in there, mixing it up, and getting as many guys involved as they can this season.
So one of my favorite things about doing the 60 and 60, Steve, is that I get to sit down in just a football conversation with Kyle Whittingham, and I hold a lot of that conversation close to the vest because I think, some of it he's probably okay with, some of it he probably, it's like, hey, some speculative stuff, and maybe keep it to yourself. And so I'm really picky with some things, but I will admit this. We were sitting there, and I was going through his list of all the guys that are on the 60, and he's always adamant about it, and he's very engaged and interested in it. And he said, "Where's Caleb Lomo?" And I said, "Who?" And he said, "Caleb Lomo." And I said, I don't know, Coach. He goes, "You're going to look really dumb not having him on your list." And I had mentioned it, but it's like, how do you put Caleb Lomu? Because I don't have a lot of film. I don't have a lot of anything to go off of. But he said, just watch. This guy is awesome. So tell me a little bit more. Give me a reason why Kyle Whittingham would be so bullish on Caleb Lomu.
Yeah, no, I'm I'm fully on the Caleb Lomu train. I think let's start with what he was coming out of high school, right? So he was in the same class as Spencer Fano, and we know Spencer Fano was a borderline top 32 player for us. I think or for 24/7 Sports. I think he finished ranked 41st in the country overall. He was one of the top offensive tackles in the class. That cycle. Caleb Lomu was in the same class. He was ranked only a couple spots lower behind Spencer Fano. So in terms of talent and how the recruiting industry evaluated him and rated him and ranked him, he ranked very highly. And when you pop on the tape from his high school film, you see pretty quickly why that was, right? So big frame, 6'5", 265 pounds, coming out of high school, and just a tremendous athlete, multi-sport athlete. Man, like watching swing a golf club, it's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. Like he can hammer it. Yeah, he can. Fluid. He can hammer. He is a great golfer. Just a beautiful swing. He's got those long arms, that Tony Finau-esque long arm type swing, where he's just got that easy power. But he played basketball. He weightlifted. There's a video of him. This is when he blew up as a recruit, where you put the bar over your head and you get into a squat, and he dropped down basically his butt to the ground, and that showed off the flexibility that he has. And I think for coaches, when you see that sort of thing, you see the flexibility in the hips and the knees, in the ankles, you get really excited about what sort of body frame you've got there. And so he's come into the program. He joined the program last summer. And I remember last year, Kyle Whittingham talked about it in fall camp, that had Caleb Lomu enrolled early like Spencer Fano had, that he would have also been in the mix to, in the two deep, perhaps even the starting unit. And he just has that athleticism. He has a great frame in terms of, that ideal body that you look for at offensive tackle, 6'5", long arms, good build. It's well proportioned, and just he's a great athlete. Moves really easily in pass pro and in the run game, and I think he's come in and just played really well for them at that left tackle spot. So the fact that he's got all those qualities that you like in a tackle. He's going to play that left tackle position, which how important that spot is. There's a lot of optimism about him just because he's got it all.
Really quick, Steve, before I let you go, because I think a lot of people are hanging on Aaron Dunn's decision. Does anybody have the inside track? I know his announcement's supposed to be coming down today. Does anybody have the inside track? Have we seen anybody heat up or where it's cooled off in the final five that he's presented?
Yeah, so with that Spanish four-star offensive tackle, Aaron Dunn, he's going to be announcing at 3 p.m. I've reached out to people, as recently as a half hour ago, that they still haven't received, indications of which way he's going to go. But what I have learned is, and I tweeted something vague last week about it, but Dunn has a top five that includes BYU, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Utah. This is coming down to a top three of Oregon, USC, and Utah. So BYU, UCLA, they're going to be represented, in his commitment ceremony, but they're not going to be, they're not the top, among the top he's considering right now. So, it's going to come down to those three programs, and I'm still trying to figure out which of those three programs he's going to commit to. There's been a lot of buzz this morning, that it's going to be Oregon. And, just considering what we know of Dunn's recruitment so far, that could track, and that very well could be the case. But I think Utah is still hoping that it could be them today. So we'll see.
Well, great stuff as always, Steve. That's the kind of Ute insider information that you're going to come to know and expect coming on now at KSLSports.com. Just superior knowledge, insight, and analysis as always. Steve, you're the best, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate you guys.